Hi, my name is Rajita and today I'll be talking about query to communication lifting theorems for adverse rebounds. This is joint work with Anurag Anshu and Shalif and David. So since we're talking about query to communication lifting theorems, let me introduce the query and communication models first. So in query complexity, we have a known function or in general a known relation and an unknown input Z, which is an input string in general. And we want to compute the function on it. So we can access this unknown input Z via an oracle O of Z. So for example, we can ask O of Z what the first bit of Z is, and it will give us an answer, say 0. Then we can ask in another location, depending on the answer we get. Say we ask it what the fourth bit of Z is, and it tells us that the fourth bit is 1. How long do we need to keep querying like this? So if f is the odd function, then we're already done because we found a 1. But we got lucky on this input, and in general, we might need to query more. So we are interested in how many times we need to query O of C in order to compute F on the worst case input. So we define these things, the deterministic query complexity of F, which is the number of times you need to query F on the worst case inputs with deterministic queries in order to compute the function. We also have the randomized query complexity of F, where you're allowed to make randomized queries, as in you're allowed to use randomness in order to determine the location of your queries. And you're also allowed to make 1/3 error over the randomness that you use for all inputs, at most 1/3 error. And the deterministic query complexity of the OR function that we saw earlier is n, because in the worst case, you might need to query all n bits before you see a 1, or you can ensure that all of the bits are 0. And it's not too hard to see that the randomized query complexity of OR is also omega theta of n. In the quantum model, we have a quantum oracle like this, where you input a state I, and it gives you the answer Ci in a phase like this. And you can obviously make queries in superposition to this oracle. And the quantum query complexity is the number of queries you need to make to this oracle in order to compute F with, again, 1/3 error, say, on all inputs. The quantum query complexity of OR is square root n, which is because of Grover search. Query complexity is one of the simplest models of computation, which means that at least compared to other models of computation, all of these lower bounds are easy to prove. Now we get to the communication model. In the communication model, again, we have a known two-party function or relation in general. We have two spatially separated parties, Alice and Bob, who share some resource. In the deterministic model, they don't share any resource. In the randomized model, they share shared randomness, and in the quantum model, they have shared entanglement. So Alice and Bob get these inputs X and Y, and then they can conduct a communication protocol. So they communicate back and forth as many times as they want interactively. And then at the end of the protocol, one party, say Bob, outputs an answer which is hopefully equal to the value of the function. So the complexity measure we are interested in is how many bits or qubits of communication is needed between Alice and Bob in order to compute F for worst case inputs. Okay, so again, we define the deterministic communication complexity of F, which is the amount of communication we need in the worst case, and the randomized communication complexity again with 1/3 error, and the quantum communication complexity again with 1/3 error in the quantum model. So communication is a more powerful model than query. We can see this by if we consider the OR function from before. Its communication complexity in all models is just 1 bit, because so suppose the OR function has its inputs divided between the two parties, then Bob can just or say Alice can just compute the OR of her bits and then send it to Bob, and then Bob can compute the OR of this with his inputs and then output the value of the total OR. So this is a successful protocol. But because communication is a more powerful model than query, the communication lower bounds also tend to be much harder to prove. But sometimes the extra power of communication is not useful. So, for example, if we consider the disjoiners function, which is the OR n function we saw from before, composed with the 2-bit AND function. Disjoiners is actually the negation of this, but the negation does not matter for our purposes. So this composition means that we have a big OR n function like this, and each of its n bits is the output of an AND2 function, and AND2 takes inputs xi, yi. Each of the AND2s take inputs xi, yi, where xi is with Alice and yi is with Bob. And it can be shown that the deterministic and randomized communication complexity of this disjoinous function are theta of n, and the quantum communication complexity of disjoinous is square root of n again because of Hoover search. So disjoinous is as hard for communication as or and are for query. So we want to ask in general if F composed with G, which we're going to call a gadget, can be as hard for communication as F is for query. So we saw earlier when F is OR and G is AND, this is true. That OR composed with AND is as hard for communication as OR is for query. But if F is AND and G is AND again, we have a big AND function, and this is easy for the same reason that a big OR is easy. So it's not true. If F is AND and G is OR, then it's hard again for the same reasons disjointness is hard. But if F is OR and G is OR, it's easy as we saw before. So in order for F composed G to be as hard for communication as F is for query for a general F, this gadget G needs to contain both and OR. An example of a gadget that contains both and OR is going to be a gadget BOR that we're going to use for our results. So it's on 0, 1, 2, 3 cross 0, 1, 2, 3, and its truth table looks like this. So you can see that the top left of the truth table contains an AND function, and the top right contains an OR function, which is flipped around a bit. Another example would be the inner product function, which contains the word gadget. So in particular, it contains both AND2 and OR2. Okay. Now what a lifting theorem does is, with an appropriate gadget, it tells us that a communication complexity measure of F is lower bounded by a query complexity measure of F. A communication complexity measure of F composed G is lower bounded by a query complexity measure of F. So examples of lifting theorems which lift deterministic and randomized query complexity to deterministic and randomized communication complexity are these following. These were shown by Raz and McKenzie at first, and then by Goosefatasi Watson and Chattopadhyay, Filmas et al. So these lifting theorems are via this technique called simulation. So this technique generally requires big gadgets. So the gadgets they used were sized polynomial in n first, and then the gadget sizes were reduced to logarithmic in n. Lifting theorems with smaller gadgets, constant size gadgets in particular, are harder to prove, but they can be much more useful. One example of this is a lifting theorem due to Shortstop, who lifted approximate degree of F to approximate log rank of F composed G with some constant size G, which I'm not specifying. So this approximate degree is a lower bound on quantum query complexity, and approximate log rank is a lower bound on quantum communication. So this is the only sort of quantum lifting theorem that we have had before. Another example is a result due to Goose and Pitasi, who show that the randomized communication complexity of F composed with the BOR gadget that we saw earlier is lower bounded by the critical log sensitivity of F, which is a lower bound on the randomized query complexity of F. Okay, so now we get to our results. We show that the randomized query communication complexity of F composed with BOR is lower bounded by the classical adversary bound of F. So compared to the CBS measure of F that we saw earlier, this is a stronger lower bound on the randomized query complexity of F. Another result we show for quantum communication complexity is that if we consider the quantum communication complexity for protocols which have a bounded amount of communication, so say R rounds, we show that the quantum communication complexity of F composed with BOR is lower bounded by CAD of F, the same CAD by R square. So this is useful when R is constant. For unbounded round communication complexity, quantum communication complexity, the result we have is that we lower bound communication complexity by with any G, not just BOR, with add 1 of F times QIC Z of G. So this add 1 of F is a weakened version of the positive weights adversary bound of F that I'll talk about later. And QIC Z of G is an information theoretic sort of measure, which we sort of informally relate to protocols for secure two-party communication. Secure two-party computation. So to compare with previous results, we show that CAD of F is indeed a stronger lower bound than critical block sensitivity for all partial functions. And in fact, there is a family of total functions for which CAD of F is at least CBS of F to the power 3 by 2. And add 1 of F is unfortunately upper bounded by approximate degree, which was the measure that was lifted by Shirstoff for all partial functions. But our techniques for proving the quantum lifting theorem are substantially different, and they may generalize to, for example, ADV of F. ADV of F is the positive weights quantum adversary bound of F, and that is not known to be upper bounded by approximate degree. It's in fact incomparable. Okay, so now I won't exactly go into what the adversary lower bounds are. I won't give their definition. They're defined in terms of an optimization program, but I'll give an idea of how to actually show that an algorithm or protocol, a query or communication complexity of an algorithm or protocol is lower bounded by an adversary bound. Okay, so given an algorithm or protocol, we're going to define a weight scheme Q of Z and I for input Z, which is going to be a measure of how much the algorithm or protocol learns the ith bit of Z. So for example, in query complexity for query algorithms, QZ of I, Q of Z and I is going to be the probability that the query algorithm queries the ith bit of Z. It can be some scaled version of this probability. Okay, now this weight scheme QZI needs to satisfy some properties. First of all, it needs to satisfy the property that if you sum over I, Q of Zi for any Z is upper bounded by the complexity measure that we want, which can be query complexity or communication complexity. And now comes the hard part, which is going to be different for the different adversary bounds. The classical adversary bound, we need to show that this quantity for two inputs Z and W, on which the functional relation value is not the same, we need to show, so these two inputs Z and W differ on some bits I, and we need to show that the sum over bits I where locations I where Z and W differ, min of QZI and QWI is at least 1 for all input pairs Z and W. For the positive weights quantum adversary bound, on the other hand, you have a similar quantity except the min of QZI and QWI, you have the geometric mean of them instead. For add 1, you have the geometric mean again, but instead of the sum over I, we're going to only consider input pairs C and W, which differ on a single bit I. So they're the same everywhere outside of I. And we need to show that the geometric mean of Q of Zi and Q of Wi on I is at least 1. Okay, so for communication protocols, on the other hand, we can't define Q of Zi in a straightforward way, like the probability of the algorithm querying the ith bit of Z. So we are going to define it in terms of information measures. We are going to use this notion of information complexity, which I'm going to define now. So suppose you have some distribution mu on the inputs X and Y of a classical communication protocol. The classical communication protocol has some shared randomness R, which also has some distribution. So these distributions induce a distribution on the transcript of the protocol, which will denote by pi. So then we can define the information complexity of pi with respect to the distribution mu, which is the mutual information between X and pi condition on Y and R, plus the mutual information between Y and pi condition on XR with respect to P. So this information complexity for all distributions mu is obviously upper bounded by the log of the size of mu, that is the number of bits communicated in the protocol pi. And mutual information also has this nice chain rule. So if you have inputs of the form x1 to xn, it satisfies this chain rule that I of xn pi condition on yr is equal to I of xi and pi, a summation over I of xi and pi condition on yr and x less than I, where x less than I means x1 to xi minus 1. The quantum analog of this information complexity is a measure which was defined by Tushar. Because a notion of a transcript for quantum protocols does not exist, we have to define this round by round somewhat carefully. Okay, so information complexity, we're going to use some lower bounds on it for some protocols. So suppose we have communication protocols for computing the 2-bit AND function and the 2-bit OR function. So now consider the distributions mu0, which is a uniform distribution on all the 0 inputs of AND2, and mu1, which is a uniform distribution on all the 1 inputs of OR2. It was shown by Bar-Yosef et al. That for any classical protocol for AND2, IC of pi with respect to mu0 is constant. And similarly, for any classical protocol for OR2, IC of mu prime, IC of pi prime with respect to mu1 is also at least constant. An analog of this result quantumly, it holds for bounded round protocols. So if you have an R round quantum protocol, you can show that the QIC measure due to Tushar, it's lower bounded by up to logarithmic factors. QIC of pi r with respect to mu0 for and is at least 1 by r. And similarly for a protocol for OR, QIC of pi r with respect to mu1 is at least 1 by r as well, up to logarithmic factors. And these results are optimal. So you can in fact have a protocol whose QIC with respect to these distributions are up to logarithmic factors 1 by r. Now, before we get to our proof of the lifting theorems, let's discuss a bit about the Bohr gadget that we're going to use for the lifting theorem. So analytically, it's going to be defined like this. So as I said, it's defined on 0, 1, 2, 3 plus 0, 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be 1 if its inputs a plus b are are equal to 2 or 3 mod 4, and it's going to be 0 otherwise. So this gadget we can see has some properties. So for example, one property it has is flippability. So this means that if Alice and Bob are given inputs A and B, they can locally generate A prime and B prime such that the value of word on A prime and B prime is the opposite of the value of word on A and B. Another property it has is random self-reducibility, which means that if Alice and Bob are given A and B, they can use shared randomness to uniformly sample A prime and B prime, which have the same function value as AB. Another property is non-triviality. So this means that and word contains both AND2 and OR2 as subfunctions, which is something we already saw. Now, how we're going to use these properties? So property 1 plus property 2 implies that if you have a protocol that distinguishes m inputs to word evaluating to either 0 to the m or 1 to the m on average, then using this, you can get a protocol for computing a single copy of word. And in fact, if you have a protocol that distinguishes m inputs to word evaluating to some s or the complement of s on average, then you can use it to get a protocol that computes word. And the third property means that any protocol that computes word has IC mu0 and IC mu1, both constant, where mu0 and mu1 are uniform over the one input, 0 input and 1 input of word. Okay, now we'll see how to use these properties to show the randomized lifting theorem for F composed with word. So suppose you have a protocol for F composed with word between Alice and Bob, with Alice having inputs x1 to xn and Bob having inputs y1 to yn. Now we're going to define the weight scheme QZI with respect to an information measure, like I said earlier. So there's going to be some information measure info of pi, z, and I. So this is going to be with respect to x1 to xn and y1 to yn, which evaluate to the input z. But I'm not going to go into too much detail about what this measure exactly is. But Approximately, it captures the information about xi and yi revealed in the protocol according to distribution that uniformly evaluates to z, and it's going to be conditioned on some other variables as well. Now, by the chain rule, we can show that sum over I of this measure info pi zi is upper bounded by the communication cost of pi. Now we need to consider two inputs, z and w, which differ on some block b say, and the function value is not the same on z and w. Now we are going to use these z and w inputs and the protocol pi to give a protocol pi prime that computes a single copy of word. How we are going to do this is this can be done by the 1 plus 2 properties of word that we saw earlier. So basically, the fact that the protocol distinguishes z and w, we're going to use that to give a protocol for pi prime, protocol for word, which is pi prime. And using the chain rule for mutual information and some other properties, we can show that this quantity that we want to lower bound, which is a summation of I in the block B, where z and w differ, of min of info pi zi and info pi wi, is lower bounded by either IC pi prime mu 0 or IC pi prime mu 1. So because word contains AND2 and OR2, IC pi prime mu 0 and IC pi prime mu 1 are both lower bounded by omega of 1. So using this, then we can show the omega 1 lower bound for the quantity that we want. And this shows the CAD lower bound. Now, there was nothing particularly quantum about the reduction that we did. The same reduction, the same way we can use a quantum protocol for F composed with word to give a protocol for a single copy of word. So does the same to give us lower bound of CAD of F by R for quantum communication complexity of F composed with word. We expect the R factor because unlike in the classical case where IC of word is omega of 1 with mu 0 and mu 1, IC for word with mu 0 and mu 1 is omega of 1 by R. But unfortunately, there are some problems with the chain rules that we need to use. So we can't exactly get this result. So instead of using QIC in order to define the quantity, define the weight scheme Q of Zi, we need to use this measure called HQIC, which is not by itself a lower bound on communication complexity, but 1 by R of HQIC is a lower bound on QIC, which is a lower bound on QIC, and QIC is a lower bound on communication complexity. So this gives us the extra factor of R square. So we get lower bound for quantum communication complexity of F composed with word in terms of CAD of F by R square. And one corollary of this is that we can get an unconditional as an unbounded round lower bound of CAD to the 1/3 for quantum communication complexity, because the communication complexity is always at least R, because each round has to communicate at least one bit. So if we take the max of R and CAD of F by R square, this gives us CAD of F to the 1/3. Now, this relation, this CAD of F to the 1/3 is not necessarily better than approximate degree, which Shostov lifted for partial functions, but it can be new for relations. Okay, so now for future directions, our results can obviously be improved. So there was the chain rule issue that I mentioned earlier. So if we solve that chain rule issue, we can lift CAD by R instead of CAD by R square to quantum communication complexity. And in fact, if we solve the chain rule issue, instead of the bound that we get for unbounded route communication in terms of add 1 of F, we will get another positive weights adversary variant called SOAD of F instead. if we are able to solve this chain rule issue, obviously. But another problem is that this QIC Z of G lower measure that we have, we don't have any unconditional lower bounds on it. We can't show that it's non-zero for even any function G. But since we relate it to secure two-party computation of functions, maybe techniques from cryptography might be helpful in order to show a lower bound on it. Another thing we could do is instead of considering the positive weights adversary bound, we could consider the negative weights adversary bound, which we know tightly characterizes quantum query complexity. Since we are having so much trouble lifting anything to quantum communication complexity, maybe it could we could try to lower bound RCC of F composed G by add the negative weights adversary of F instead. If we could do this, this would still be incomparable with all the lifting results for randomized communication complexity that we already have. Okay, that's my talk. Thank you.